the first step in finding God's will for our life and his purpose that he has for us. Romans 12:1, which says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. In other words, all of our Christian duty. We have to present our own bodies to the Lord as a living sacrifice. We all make mistakes every single day. We may say and do the wrong things. We don't have to start all over. We just go to God and ask for forgiveness. We turn from those sins, those mistakes, turn back to God and keep walking according to his will. That's why it's a living sacrifice. And that's why we have to do this daily. It's possible to commit our lives to the Lord for the purpose of salvation and not be yielded to the Lord in our daily lives. It only is when we make that total sacrifice of every area of our lives. Once we give every part of our lives to God, this is the first step into finding God's will. Romans 12:2 goes on to show us how to accomplish this. Romans 12:2, and be not conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. See, many of us would like to think that if we fulfill the condition in Romans 12:1, giving our lives to God, every part of our lives, that everything will automatically work out perfect and we will be in God's will. Well, Paul goes on to tell us how to accomplish this in this verse, Romans 12:2. We have to renew our minds, and we have to do this daily. This verse goes on to say, the key is our minds. Proverbs 23:7 says, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. If we keep our minds stayed upon God through the studying of his word and fellowshipping with him every day, we'll have that perfect peace that Isaiah 26:3 talks about. Making our thinking line up with God's word by reading and studying it every day will affect this complete transformation in our lives. Romans 12:1 and 2 is a promise that if we fulfill the requirements of these two verses, we will prove, not might prove, it says we will prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Finding God's will is not hard when we do what these two verses instructs us to do. This is a wonderful promise that we can prove God's will for our lives. God's will for all of us is to be a living sacrifice to him. Once that's accomplished, more specific direction will come as we continue to renew our mind through God's word. God just doesn't want our service. He wants us. He wants that relationship with us. Have a blessed day and go tell someone about Jesus.